Hey guys, some gamer dude here. I was searching for topics to talk about as VBT01 was closing before I made content on that set, and I ended up coming to my favourite trigger, the stand trigger. Yeah, I'm that guy, you should expect this. I'm a huge fan of Aquaforce, and I've mentioned Nova Grappler quite a bit, and those are considered the premier clans for stand triggers. Over my time playing the original Vanguard, I came to certain truths regarding the stand trigger. I tried it in builds that seemed like they'd benefit from stands, but came to the realization that very few decks in the game could actually run stand triggers effectively, as very few cards were built for them. The critical trigger is commonly considered the best trigger in the game, if not that, the heal trigger. Critical triggers give the Vanguard threat. If it hits, it deals more than 1 damage. It's very simple and very effective. If the Vanguard is met with a perfect guard or 2 to pass, something not worth banking on, one of the rear guard is given plus 5,000 power and plus 1 critical. It gains the threat. Stand triggers operate very differently. Stand triggers don't give the Vanguard any real pressure. Instead, they move to give the user another attack that turn. This is the biggest issue with the stand trigger. Where the critical is effective all game and manipulates how the opponent plays, the stand trigger does absolutely nothing until the opponent is at 5 damage unless the deck in question has something to work in tandem with them. Aquaforce is the only clan to truly work with stand triggers in my experience. Many decks over all clans can use them, but it's generally a case of 8 critical and 4 stands or something like that, not stands exclusively. Aquaforce, however, works with stands exclusively, and it's not to its detriment like it is with other clans. This boils down to what was later dubbed the wave mechanic. Let's talk about their original premier deck and my favourite, Bluestorm Dragon Maelstrom. He's wave 4 plus 5,000 plus threat, gaining the ability to plus 2 if he hits. His threat to plus 2 means that the opponent has to block him. He doesn't need critical triggers to force the opponent to guard. Of course, the clan itself plays into this use of stand triggers with its cards with the wave 1 type abilities like Bluestorm Soldier, Rascal Sweeper and Maelstrom's own wave 4, but they aren't alone in having their Vanguard attack later, and attacking later doesn't mean the deck should be running stand triggers. Let's head over to Nova Grappler. Asura Kaiser was the original Nova Grappler deck, and when Nova Grappler launched, they had 2 stands, a critical and a heal trigger. It was nearly unplayable, perfect guard or not. Asura Kaiser may want to attack second, but the chance of him hitting a critical trigger was so low, 15.8%. He had next to no threat. He attacks, why guard till you have 5 damage? He's only going to do 1 damage 84.2% of the time, nothing more. He needs 8 criticals to give him pressure. His own effect gives him this RVR pattern, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean he should be running stand triggers. His effect helps him end the game, but he needs to get there. Only criticals can do that. This is actually true for a lot of Nova Grappler. Even built-in threat doesn't necessarily mean stand triggers are optimal. Stone Blaukluger is a prime example of this, due to what he stands. Off the top of my head, the only Nova Grappler bosses from the original run that want stand triggers are Beast Deity Azure Dragon, Gold Rutol, and of all things, Pluto Blaukluger. If anyone, anywhere, ever has run Pluto Blaukluger, not one of these decks were exactly prominent. Strongest Beast Deity, Ethics Buster Extreme, is fine with them too, but it's a lot of overkill with him due to how he works. The rest of the clan and the more prominent builds of Nova Grappler only work with critical triggers or are just better with them. There is something we have yet to touch on. The stand trigger needs an appropriate rearguard so that when it's checked, that unit stands with maximum efficiency. With very few exceptions, the rearguard that receives the stand trigger needs to be able to attack the Vanguard at 2 stages, forcing out a 10,000 shield. Any less than that, and you're not getting the most out of it, and a defensive trigger will render it moot. Because of that, you either need buffs or units that work natively with it, such as Beast Deity, Hatred, Chaos, and its Ill. We also haven't talked about the point of the stand trigger. The stand trigger is meant to take advantage of dwindling resources and end the game. The stand trigger always takes another card or more cards to stop. If the opponent doesn't have that, they lose. The more cards you ask your opponent to spend to stave off victory, the higher chances they won't have it. So this gets to the main meat of the video. When should you run stand triggers? I believe there are 3 categories of reasons to run stand triggers. For their effects, to help finish the game, it's organic to the deck. Effects are rather simple. It's your stuff like Catch Goal Liberator. You may need to change parts of the deck to accommodate the use of stand triggers, but they're typically not your primary trigger or in an even split. It's just 4 of for the effect. 15.8% during Twin Drive, it might happen, but not often. Stands for finishing is commonly the 6-6 split. 23.2% chance of hitting either laser offensive trigger type during twin drive and goes in an RVR pattern. This is typically done in decks such as Ashley and Lukier Reverse, both of which plus a little, negating the need for draw triggers. The decks already run cards that work with stand triggers such as Miranda and Clemens. The boss has no impact upon attack patterns and the deck has no finishing force. The critical and stand triggers work in tandem. The critical triggers speed up damage to the point stand triggers can make an impact and give the Vanguard threat. The stand triggers drain your opponent's hand. Another deck I quite like that fits into this well is Holy Edge Celestial Malshedial, which can give plus 4,000 to a column, but has no bearing on anything herself. The final ones are organic to the deck. This is by far the rarest because many aspects of the deck need to align for the deck to be able to run exclusively on stand triggers. The boss needs both threat and to have a reason to attack last, while the rearguard need to be able to support the use of stand triggers. This would be stuff like Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom, Enigman Rain, Beast Deity Azure Dragon. The last thing we need to discuss here is the curious case of Ultimate Riser Mega Flare, because this card discusses the type of threat and a deck that honestly can go either way. Ultimate Riser wants to be at minimum second to attack because 4 rested units unlocks his Legion skill of +1 critical. This card was commonly used in tandem with Cat Butler to cheese a restanding Vanguard due to Legion. Though this could be done with any Nova Grapple Legion, it was just better with Ultimate Riser because of the built-in critical. Then with up to 2 Cat Butlers, you can swing with your Vanguard up to 3 times, or with Twin Drive. It's a +1 every time you Cat Butler too. But without this cheese, you can make the argument for stands or criticals. Maybe even a split depending on your card choices. You've tapped out a column. Your Vanguard has pressure in 2 ways. The critical and the threat to stand a rearguard. The G-era Nova Grappler gave Risers units whose effects trigger when they stand and can stand other units. Risers have easy ways of being stand compatible. This all plays into a stand trigger deck quite well, but there is a but. Vanguards with critical synergize best with critical triggers to end the game faster, much like how restanding Vanguards do. This is why Ultimate Riser can swing either way. As I've said before, the fandom in general does not consider the stand trigger to be of much worth outside of those that produce powerful broken effects. I do not blame them. It's not entirely inaccurate, but there is another side to the story. The stand trigger has never been adequately supported across all clans. I don't think Bushiroad fully grasped the concept, what it needs, and honestly, I don't think they ever did. It speaks volumes that even Aquaforce, the clan with the most synergy with stand triggers, wasn't truly viable until the Breakride era, which is also where stands in general hit their stride. Outside of the stand-compatible rearguard, I'm not sure Bushiroad truly understood what went right during Breakride. Because with just the limited knowledge of the G-era I have, the circumstances were not replicated and the game shifted hard to stands with broken effects for those broken effects and criticals. I'm fairly sure all of this led to stand triggers being dropped in Vanguard V. But I am still fond of the stand trigger. I may never have gotten to use it as much as I would have liked to, but I lament their removal. The front triggers are neat and all, but I think there was just a ton of untapped potential with the stand trigger, and it's just a darn shame that not everyone got the opportunity to use them. This has been Some Gamer Dude, and I'll see you guys next video.